This is ABC7 News at 7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.
A lot of churches are anti-gun. A lot of churches are anti-security. You know, the whole thing is they say, well, we're in a church, God's going to protect us. God sent me there to help protect you.
As Jesus once said, we need to be as harmless as doves and wise as serpents.
After two recent mass shootings, places of worship are tightening up security. Does it make congregants safer, or does it put more people on edge? Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohn, and welcome to ABC7 at 7. We'll have more on security at places of worship in a moment. But first, our top 7 stories at 7. And we begin tonight with police saying the nightmare in Tampa is over. Residents have been living in fear for weeks after 4 people in separate incidents were shot and killed. 24-year-old Howell Donaldson has been arrested. Donaldson was arrested at a McDonald's after police received a tip. He asked a manager to hold his loaded pistol. Investigators say the gun was the piece of evidence they needed to charge Donaldson.
I said I was guarded and but yet optimistic. And you're probably wondering why. Because the gun is what we needed. The same gun was used in all 4 murders. That was the bit of information that we would not release. If you recall, we gave a lot of information up front, but we did not release that.
Duggan added they have not figured out the motive for the murders. Northport is cleaning up after a local skate park after a vandal spray-painted derogatory words and symbols on the park's bathroom. The vandalism ranged from profanity to a swastika. Police have arrested 38-year-old James Williams for criminal mischief and possession of marijuana. It took over 9.5 hours for workers to remove the paint from the park. A lot of folks are not going to like hearing this. Sarasota County is facing a budget deficit. The 2018 budget has projected a deficit of $5.4 million. County commissioners plan to borrow funds from a reserve account. Commissioners are discussing cuts to ensure the county doesn't have to dip into savings to run operations. The proposal calls for cutting $14 million from spending, including $1.5 million from area libraries.
I think often about school children who live in the homes where there's no access to the internet, and what a disadvantage it is to them to do homework for the children that have that access 24/7. And I'd hate to think of us cutting library hours, library services to these most vulnerable people in our community who absolutely critically need the library. It's not a nice to have, it's essential to have.
Commissioners are also proposing selling surplus property as a way to make up the projected deficit. The effort to redevelop Sarasota's Bayfront continues. An important financial goal has been met. Just over $2 million has been raised to hire a leadership planning and design firm, Sasaki, to create a master plan for 42 acres of Sarasota Bayfront. The master plan will then go to the City Commission to review and approve next fall. Sasaki will be introduced to the City Commission on Monday, December 4th at 6 p.m. Florida's Election Commission is waiving a hefty $110,000 fine on the Republican Party of Florida. The commission levied the fine after the party turned in a campaign finance report 11 days late. Party officials called it an oversight and appealed. An attorney for the party told the Florida Elections Report the report covered only a handful of transactions that had been reported by a candidate. The Florida Supreme Court is rejecting Governor Rick Scott's push to disqualify a sitting state Supreme Court justice from a pending case. The court denied Scott's motion in a one-sentence ruling. Last week, Scott filed a motion contending Justice Barbara Parenti was biased against the Republican governor. The motion is based on comments made by Parenti, including one caught on a microphone following a recent hearing in the case over Scott's appointment power. A spokesman for Scott called it disappointing. Tomorrow marks the last day of the 2017 Atlantic hurricane season, but we are going to feel the impact for years. Hurricane Irma caused massive damage. Hurricane Maria's devastated Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. 72 deaths in Florida are attributed to Irma. The National Weather Service says Irma will go down in history.
Irma was the strongest hurricane in the open Atlantic. That means outside the Gulf of Mexico or the Caribbean Sea. So that was a record breaker. It was also a classified as Category 5 hurricane, longer, I believe, than any other hurricane on record. So we certainly did establish some records.
Overall, there were 17 named Atlantic storms this year. Now let's head over to ABC7's chief meteorologist with the first alert forecast. Good riddance to hurricane season, Bob.
You know it, Alan. I'm looking forward to that day tomorrow. Obviously, the last day of the hurricane season. Nothing out there near us at all. 74 degrees. We have clear skies. Dew point is at 63. Winds are out of the east-northeast at 7. And the pressure way up there, 30-10. That continues to rise at this hour. A few showers have been down to our south and along the east coast, but that's been about it. And we've been talking about this for a while. The high-pressure ridge continues to dominate the weather now over the southeast. This high will eventually slip off into the Atlantic and weaken in time, and that will allow a frontal system to approach from the northwest. Now, that front is a cold front. It's not a very strong one. It will weaken as it moves into North Florida and fade away. But for the time being, the rain that was around earlier is now winding down across the state. Temperatures currently into the mid-70s for the most part. Inglewood at 75 in Braden. The Gulf water temperature at 71. Arcadia now at 73. The evening planner looks good. Temperatures upper 60s by 11 o'clock tonight. And we are expecting, looks like low temperatures to be a little bit above average. In fact, this morning's low was 10 degrees above average. And look at all that dry air covering the Gulf of Mexico all the way over to Florida. And as far as that season goes, the active 2017 season, well, there they are. There's all the names. Rena being the last one, never got to Sean, and hopefully we won't. Again, the strongest storms on there. You can see Irma, a Category 5 hurricane at one point. Maria, that too, also a Category 5 hurricane. And we are going to say goodbye to this season. And next season, it's still up in the air. We got a long way to go, 6 months. But I tell you, it looks like La Nina will be in play during next year's season, and that usually means more storms in the Atlantic. So another good news, right?
Isn't that just special?
Right.
Thanks
a long
a lot,
time
Bob.
ago, though.
All right. Thanks, Bob. And still to come, after multiple church shootings, places of worship are increasing security and preparing for the worst. Stay with us.
Soldiers in the Army National Guard serve to give back to their country and communities. Their part-time commitment qualifies them for an array of benefits, such as affordable health and life insurance benefits, education benefits, including tuition assistance, student loan repayment, and GI Bill programs, a retirement plan based on part-time service, and VA home mortgages. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn more about all the benefits available in the Army National Guard.
Attention, Americans eligible for Medicare. Are you getting all the benefits you're entitled to? Did you know there may be money available to lower your medical prescription costs? Call Health Markets and we'll tell you if you qualify.
Hi, I'm Dr. Martin Jeetsi. It's a new Medicare year. That means more changes and more confusion. The key question is, what can you do now to ensure you get the care you need in the coming year?
Call Health Markets today. You may qualify to save money on prescriptions. We'll help you find plans that may cost less, cover more, and could even lower your prescription costs to increase your savings. We help you find all the benefits you're entitled to, and we do it at no cost.
Make sure you have what you need to get the care that's right for you.
Find out if you qualify to receive extra help with your prescriptions. Call the number on the screen now. Representatives are standing by.
About every 3 minutes in America, someone is diagnosed with a blood cancer. Light the Night brings together survivors and supporters to bring light to the darkness of cancer and to help fund life-saving research. Our goal is a world without blood cancers, and we're lighting the path to cures. The discoveries made in blood cancer research have led to breakthrough treatments for many cancers and other serious diseases. Help defeat the darkness of cancer. Join Light the Night today.
Are you a food lover, restaurant goer, or home cook? Then check out My Suncoast Dining on mysuncoast.com, your guide to the foodie lifestyle. ABC7's own Chef Judy serves up her favorite recipes, cooking tips and trends, dining blogs, and helpful step-by-step videos. And you'll love the restaurant guide with direct links to your favorite Suncoast eateries. Whether you're cooking in or dining out, whet your appetite with tasty tips from Chef Judy at mysuncoast.com/dining. The ABC7 First Alert Hurricane Guide. Download yours today.
It's a sad sign of the times. Churches, synagogues, mosques beefing up security to guard against gunmen, terrorists, and hate crimes. As Adam Cellini reports, in some cases, pastors are undergoing firearms training to protect their parishioners.
1 week after a gunman walked into a Sutherland Springs Baptist church and claimed 26 lives, Pastor Bill Hild had a message for his congregation.
I assured them that not only did we already have procedures and practices in place, both seen and unseen, for their safety, that we were going to continue to study those and increase those where it is appropriate.
Security at Sarasota's Downtown Baptist Church predates both Texas and the Charleston, South Carolina shooting 2 years earlier. Most of it you'd never notice walking through the doors on a Sunday, but make no mistake, in this sanctuary, evil can be met with deadly force.
As Jesus once said, we need to be as harmless as doves and wise as serpents. We're not going to allow someone intent on hurting us or our people much of an opportunity to do that.
For an active shooter, it's fair game.
Joe Naples says churches are easy targets.
Everybody thinks that a church is a safe place. It's supposed to be, but that's why we're bigger targets. It's a confined area where there's groups of people.
Naples started Divine Protection Ministries back in 2014 after the shooting death of a Bradenton pastor. For absolutely no cost, he'll visit local churches to set up security teams, trained to protect what he calls the flock.
You're the sheepdog. You're there to give the warning, try and clear everybody out, do the best you can to make sure nobody gets hurt.
He's since trained about 5 churches, turning ushers and parishioners into bodyguards who are posted either in plain sight or undercover. But firearms training, he says, can be a tough sell.
A lot of churches are anti-gun. A lot of churches are anti-security. The whole thing is they say, well, we're in a church, God's going to protect us. God sent me there to help protect you.
Churches aren't the only ones with fortifications. Synagogues have been ahead of this curve for some time. Here, you'd be hard-pressed to find one without basic security right at the front door.
How can I help you?
We've all been part of these conversations. There's not a Jewish organization in this town that isn't fully aware of the risk out there.
Howard Tevelvitz knows that risk is growing in the United States. Over 100 bomb threats have been made against Jewish institutions so far this year.
You can't be afraid. That's what they want you to do. They want you to be afraid. What you have to do is be smart and be prepared to the extent you can be prepared.
The Sarasota Police Department partnered with over 70 faith-based leaders like Tevlowitz and Hild after the Charleston church shooting. They added even more members after Sutherland Springs.
There were some churches that hadn't participated the first go-around that actually reached out to us.
SPD offers site checks, patrols. They even wrote a 10-step emergency action guide specifically for places of worship.
If you're not prepared and you don't plan for something, you will freeze. So we teach police officers, practice in your head, and I encourage all of our community, practice in your head what you're going to do if there's an active shooter.
Another suggestion from Joe Naples to churches is to practice active shooter situations kind of like a fire drill. That way the congregation understands which exits are the closest, how they can reach them the fastest, and who among the congregation they should look to in the event of an emergency. In Sarasota, Adam Cellini, ABC7, your Suncoast News.
Coming up, an extraordinary gathering of pastors and security professionals as we assemble at the trapezoid.
For 30 years, it's been an honor for the Michaels on Ice team to serve you.
We love that our restaurant, wine cellar, and ballroom have become your favorite gathering places, and we love catering your parties.
From everyday celebrations to life's greatest occasions, please join us soon for new culinary adventures. A toast to 30 years.
And to many more.
Attention type 2 diabetics. The FDA warns of an increased risk of amputation associated with certain diabetes medications. If you took the diabetes medications Invokana or Invokamet and then suffered an amputation or one of these other serious injuries, call the Rely On group right now. If you've suffered amputation or any of these injuries after taking your diabetes medication, call the Rely On group today. You may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. The FDA has recently warned about an increased risk of leg and foot amputations associated with the use of certain diabetic medications such as Invokana and Invokamet. If you or a loved one took the diabetes medications Invokana or Invokamet and then suffered an amputation, ketoacidosis, kidney failure, or even death, call the Rely On Group now. We are here to help you get the justice you deserve. You may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Call 800-355-8205. That's 800-355-8205.
This is an important message for anyone with Medicare. You may be eligible for an all-in-one Medicare plan that combines hospital, medical, and prescription drug coverage together with extra benefits that may include dental, vision, hearing aids, and much more. Some of these plans have a $0 monthly premium regardless of your income. That's right. For one low plan premium, or in some cases a $0 premium, you may be able to get coverage for your hospital visits, doctor appointments, prescription drugs, routine dental care, eyeglasses and contact lenses, hearing aids, and possibly more. Today may be the first time you've heard about this type of Medicare plan. The advisors at the Medicare.com helpline are licensed insurance agents who will explain more when you call. Call now to see if you qualify. Call the number on your screen now. Call now to see if you qualify for these benefits. You worked hard for your Medicare. Now is the time for your Medicare to work hard for you. Not affiliated with or acting on behalf of any government agency or program.
Welcome back. The fact that we even have to have this conversation is a sad commentary on the times. Last month, 26 people were killed by a former soldier with a history of mental health issues as they prayed on a Sunday morning at their Texas church. In 2015, 9 people were killed by a white supremacist, Dylan Roof, at the Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston. Synagogues and Jewish community centers have had to constantly deal with bomb threats and defacement. So have mosques, including one in New Tampa, where an arson fire caused damage last year. And joining us for more is Pastor Bill Hild of Sarasota's First Baptist Church, Howard Tevlowitz, Executive Director of the Jewish Federation of Sarasota and Manatee, Joe Naples of the Divine Protection Ministries, Hassan Shibli of the Council of American Islamic Relations, and joining us by Skype is Reverend Russell Meyer, the Executive Director of the Florida Council of Churches. An incredible panel. We have a lot to cover, and I want to start with a sign that was posted outside of a church in Tampa, and I think we have a picture of that. It was posted a short time ago by the River Tampa Bay Church, and it says, "Welcome to the river at Tampa Bay. This is private property. Please know this is not a gun-free zone. We are heavily armed. Any attempt will be dealt with by deadly force. Yes, we are a church and will protect our people." Sign, the pastors. And Pastor, I want to start with you, and we were talking about this a little bit before the show. I understand that, but on the other hand, the question is, does that kind of defeat what a lot of people are going to church to do in terms of finding a peaceful environment and get away from a lot of the things that we are concerned about on a daily basis?
Well, I think the question, Alan, is that we have to provide that kind of environment where our people can feel a sense of confidence, that they're safe and they're secure, so that they can fulfill that desire that they have for that time of worship, of finding the presence of God in their life and what they're seeking.
And you know, I know you were saying to me before, when you got into this profession, this was something that was the least thing on your mind. How many years ago was it?
It was 42 years ago.
Incredible. Yeah. Reverend Meyer, I take it that you might have a different view in terms of signs like that and not the fact that churches and synagogues and mosques have to be on high alert here, but how you go about doing so.
Well, we have a problem celebrating the gun culture in our country, and particularly in the South. And I come from a theological position and a pastoral take that simply does not want to engage the celebration of a gun culture. I take it as my sort of lead scripture, the last word that Jesus said to his disciples when they were gathered together in the Garden of Gethsemane. When Peter tried to defend Jesus from being arrested, he said, "Put the sword down." And that's really been the historic Christian position. Too much in our society wants to push everything down to the lowest level, to the street level, and wants the faith community to solve all the problems that are really public policy issues that we should be able to solve in a participatory democracy that keeps everybody safe without saying arm yourself.
You know, this is an issue that is not defined in terms about, Christianity, Judaism, or Islam in terms of how places of worship handle things like this. Hassan, I believe I saw you on one of the networks taking weapons training. Was it after the arson fire in Tampa?
It was around the same time, actually. In the past year, unfortunately, since the president started targeting the Muslim community, we've noticed and documented a dramatic increase in anti-Muslim hate crimes and incidents of discrimination. It got to the point where we're at our office and houses of worship receiving threats almost daily, threatening to blow up our mosques, threatening to shoot our children. And when it comes to that, we really can't take our safety for granted. So we've been doing safety trainings and encouraging people to take whatever means necessary to protect themselves.
And Howard, I would imagine that at Jewish community centers and synagogues, there are differences in terms on an individual basis. And we've been involved at my own synagogue in terms of surveillance cameras and so forth. Are there synagogues locally that are also providing weapons training to rabbis and to people who go? Because we live in dangerous times.
Yeah, I think rather than getting specific about what each individual synagogue does, I think it's suffice to say that each organization has to have a level of training for their staff, understanding what could happen in the case of an emergency, and understanding what the threat levels are and where they are.
Okay, Joe, I want to ask you a quick question. To respond to Reverend Meyer, who said that basically having weapons in a synagogue, or in a church, or a synagogue or a mosque is antithetical to religion.
No, it's not. Jesus also told his people, let me rephrase that. I'm not one to pull scripture off the top of my head.
Neither am I, it's okay.
That he told them to sell their coats or take their money in a sack and buy swords. That was to protect themselves when they were traveling. I don't see it being anti-theoretic to have weapons in the church. I understand what Reverend Meyer is referring. I also know that Jesus' greatest commandment is to love everybody as he loved them.
Okay, we are going to just take a short break. We are getting warmed up. We'll have much more on security at places of worship after the break, so stay tuned.
This is an important medical announcement. Bard IVC filters have been linked to punctured veins and problems with migration. Anyone who's received a Bard IVC filter must receive medical monitoring and may be entitled to substantial compensation. If you have the Bard Recovery G2 or G2 Express filter, you are in a class of patients who should be compensated for some expenses. Call now for a free assessment of your case and potential money damages. This call is confidential. There's no cost and you may be eligible. Juries have awarded millions of dollars to people who should have been warned about the risks of the Bard IVC filters. Call the IVC Filter Hotline if you or a loved one has received an IVC filter and experienced a vein puncture or required medical monitoring. You must call now.
Call 800-329-3089. 800-329-3089.
This is an important announcement. If you're between 50 and 85 and worried about your loved ones, you can still get affordable life insurance for peace of mind.
My life insurance coverage is guaranteed, and I was not required to get a medical exam.
I had high blood pressure and diabetes, and I got my coverage with one telephone call. No exam necessary.
I'm a smoker, and I wanted to take care of my family. I called to get my life insurance and my affairs in order. I wanted to do the right thing.
Call Final Expense No Exam Insurance. Your rates are guaranteed and will never increase.
I called and learned that this insurance cannot be canceled even if you get sick or gain weight.
And there are no restrictions on how my beneficiaries use the money when I'm gone.
Approval was easy and the price was right. I wanted to do this for my children.
Call 800-738-9812. 800-738-9812.
There's nothing like this trail in Alabama. It just goes from the northern part of the state to the southern part of the state. We see all kind of different terrains, great value, great fun. We've been coming for 18 years. We started off with a group of 8, grew to 12, and grew to 16. And we love it because where else can you get world-class golf courses with world-class accommodations? To be able to play these type of courses in this environment, and the difficulty keeps us coming back over and over and over again.
Welcome back. We're talking about heightened security at churches, synagogues, and mosques, especially after last month's church shooting in Texas. And joining us for more is Pastor Bill Hild of Sarasota's First Baptist Church, Howard Tevlowitz, Executive Director of the Jewish Federation of Sarasota Manatee, Joe Naples of the Divine Protection Ministries, Hassan Shibli of the Council of American Islamic Relations, and joining us by Skype is Reverend Russell Meyer, Executive Director of the Florida Council of Churches. And Pastor Bill, I'm going to start with you because we were talking about this before the show again, the Dylan Roof situation in Charleston. He was in that church, obviously not a member of church, but they welcomed him in with open arms under the assumption that is what you're supposed to do at a place of worship. Are those days over?
No, they're not over, and all people are welcome into our fellowship. Our doors are open. But in light of the times in which we live and the questions that we have to consider across the board, across every faith community. It's important for us we don't have one answer, we have multiple answers. And so we have to be active, we have to be passive, but I think most of all we need to be proactive in looking at the concerns. I know our congregation, they have an expectation that they can come and worship and be safe, but all people are welcome into our fellowship, and they will continue to be welcome.
Joe, what kind of reception have you gotten at different churches in our area in terms of the services you offer?
It's mixed. It all depends. Certain churches are welcoming with open arms. Other churches, once they invite me in and they realize the tactics and the plans that I want to help instill in their facility, they back off. Like I said, some of them, you know, I start mentioning about the firearms. They don't want anything to do with that, which is fine, because I have other ways to help them secure their churches. But a lot of churches are very receptive to what I offer.
Reverend Meyer, you preside over 2 churches in 2 different neighborhoods in the Tampa area. What do you do, especially when you do not know who is in the neighborhood all the time in terms of securing these buildings and creating an environment that is safe for your parishioners?
Well, we're in one of our congregations is in Seminole Heights, and so given the story you had earlier about the serial murder suspect that was arrested, a lot of concern about that over the last 2 months, and so people have taken precautions to make certain that there was plenty of light around. They weren't in the building alone at night, and so there's reasonableness that's going on. My concern is the gun culture and the way people celebrate a gun culture and celebrate violence, and particularly the rhetoric of hate that is prevalent in our community from our highest politicians on down. And I think the faith community should rally together and say no to this rhetoric of hate, and to say no to a gun that culture that celebrates gun violence. And rather than simply training our people, we should be a spiritual voice. This is a spiritual crisis, and we should rise to the occasion to join together to say no more. Other countries don't have this problem. We have it in the United States. That's supposed to be one of the most spiritually active places in the world.
Howard, aside from the church shooting that we have been focusing on, obviously the fear and concern about terrorism is prevalent, especially in the Jewish community. Right. Has that really changed how synagogues in particular, not only on the Sun Coast, but all over, have dealt with monitoring, surveillance, making sure that these buildings are as safe as possible?
100%. Not just synagogues, obviously Jewish community centers or any places where people could gather. This is the problem of our times right now. There isn't a place to hide from this, and within the Jewish community, we have the real pleasure of dealing with this from the left and the right. So not only does it happen from college campuses all the way through, I guess, the new emergence of the right, we're getting it everywhere. So it's a very difficult situation for us to be in. We have to be proactive. We've been meeting with synagogue leadership for months, if not longer. We've been working with Homeland Security and other police departments locally.
And Hassan, I basically want to ask you the same question, because there are two different issues here. There are situations like at the church shooting where you have a madman with a gun, but there are also, the arson that was at the Tampa Mosque and the overall concern. How do you handle these kinds of threats separately?
Well, we've started a program similar to my friend here where we've done over 40 trainings for the Muslim community, and we also open it up to churches and other houses of worship on how to have personal safety, how to protect your organization, your building, and how to protect against mass shooters. But I think, Reverend Mayer is on point when he says that we really need to change the culture of hate and fear that leads to the incitement of that violence. And it's very important to note the hypocrisy in how we respond. So when an immigrant is involved in a mass shooting or an act of terrorism, the president's talking about shutting down the borders and talking about a Muslim ban. However, when you have mass shootings happening almost every day, you don't hear the president talking about reform to our gun laws that have allowed lunatics to get access to weapons whereby they kill people in church or in synagogue or in mosque.
Okay. We have to take another quick break. We'll be back in just a moment.
This is an important medical announcement. Xarelto and Pradaxa have been linked to uncontrollable bleeding and even death. If you've been prescribed one of these drugs and have experienced these dangerous side effects, you may be entitled to substantial compensation. Studies show that Pradaxa can cause more heart attacks than warfarin, and other countries have already issued safety warnings against this drug. Call now for a free assessment of your case and potential money damages. The call is confidential, there's no cost, and you may be eligible. Juries have awarded millions of dollars to Pradaxa victims, and thousands of Xarelto victims are filing their legal cases. Call the Drug Watch hotline if you or a loved one used Xarelto or Pradaxa and experienced uncontrollable bleeding, brain hemorrhage, or even death. You must call now.
Call 800-793-6055. 800-793-6055.
The following message is brought to you by Mesobook.com.
People who have been diagnosed with mesothelioma have many questions. How did I get this disease? What are my treatment options? How will this affect my loved ones? You need answers, which is why we offer a free book written by medical professionals who have treated mesothelioma.
Call toll-free at 1-800-777-1366 or go to mesobook.com.
The perfect musical for the holidays is live on the Players Center stage. Packed with the big band sounds from World War II, the 1940s Radio Hour is our boogie-woogie bugle boy answer to the holiday blues. Call the Players Center at 365-2494 or visit us at theplayers.org. The Players Wild Broadway series wishes you a Merry Christmas with the 1940s Radio Hour.
Here we go. We're gonna go out there in the rain. Gonna get wet. All right, here we go. Okay, quick. Oh yeah, yes. So much fun. Mwah. We're getting so wet.
Welcome back. We are talking about the increased security at places of worship. Reverend Meyer, let me start with you this time around, because obviously the threat against churches, synagogues, and mosques has really been elevated over the last couple of years. Certainly the folks in Texas were aware of that, but obviously this madman was able to walk right in and wreak havoc. So in lieu of that, is there something firmly that churches need to do in order to protect the congregants and make sure that people, whether they are out of their minds or not, cannot do that kind of damage?
Well, I think every congregation, every house of worship needs to have a disaster plan, and whether you're talking about a hurricane or a human act of terrorism. I do think that we have a lot of language going around that is unfair and uneven. If we have people of color or foreign origin who commit one of these acts, we call it terrorism. If it's somebody who is of European descent, then we call them a madman, or we say they have mental illness. And so we have a great unevenness in how we even look at the problem. We need to have a much better shared understanding of mental health in this country. The state of Florida is at the bottom of the list in mental health spending. And so if we're really serious about protecting our people, we don't just train them in emergency response. We really want to be working to create a healthy society for everyone.
But let me
and that
ask you,
should be the message that's coming from all of our
but let me ask you,
faith community.
let me ask you one follow-up question to that. Aside from disaster response, how in the short term, and obviously we have a lot of sociological issues to work on here, but how in the short term do we prevent people from getting into houses of worship in the first place and killing people?
Well, I suppose for those who have this as a grave concern, and I think the concern is uneven across communities of worship, it's not the same everywhere. If you need to put up metal detectors and do that sort of thing, then you need to make that assessment for your community. But together we can be talking about the larger social issues. And so when Hassan talks about what his community has to do, that's driven by the hate rhetoric that's been current over the last 10 to 15 years in this country. And so in other places that really celebrate a gun culture, even in church, they then find themselves having to take other kinds of precautions. So every community has to assess the threat for themselves. But together, all of us should be addressing the mental health and public safety issue from a policy place that says there's something more important than guns in our society.
Joe, you mentioned to us earlier before in terms of some of the churches that you deal with, some people welcome what you have to offer, others want to have nothing to do with it. So how do you kind of bridge the divide there?
Well, the only way you can bridge it is I go based on what the senior pastor wants for his church. That's the easiest way to do it.
So there are different things that you could offer.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I'm not just in there pushing weapons. That's not what I'm about. I'm there to train the pastors, train the pastoral staff, train the people who are involved in the church what to do in case of an event, of a situation, active shooter, bomb threat, what have you. There's not one fix for everything. Each thing's separate.
Howard, is there also in the Jewish community an evolving strategy and techniques and things that synagogues and JCCs are tapping into in terms of trying to prevent these things from happening in the first place?
We have a national defense agency through the Jewish federations nationally, directly in Homeland Security and working with local law enforcement. So the good news is we do have organizations we can go to. In addition, Congress allocates money directly to Jewish institutions. Now, unfortunately, in Sarasota, we don't qualify because we're not considered a high-risk area.
But Tampa is.
Tampa definitely is, and Tampa's gotten money through their Jewish community centers and synagogues for security.
Hassan, I want to ask you the same question. Is the Muslim community doing what it needs to do as a whole to figure out how to prevent whether it's arson fires or something maybe even worse than that?
We're trying to take a proactive approach, and we're trying to work to build bridges and promote tolerance and understanding to undermine the cycle of ignorance and fear and hate that ultimately leads to acts of violence. At the same time, we're taking very practical measures, encouraging people to take whatever necessary means to protect their houses of worship, like our safety and security trainings, like the active shooter trainings, because you can't take any risks when it comes to safety. And ultimately, look, if our Jewish brothers and sisters aren't safe, if our Christian brothers and sisters aren't safe, we're not safe. We all must stand united together for peace and justice.
Pastor Hill, you were saying also to us before, there is a difference between a small, whether it's a church or synagogue or a mosque, and larger places of worship that has more doors, that welcome more people, and are more difficult, therefore, to guard.
Yeah, there's greater access, and it's simply a dynamic of size sometimes. But I remind us that at Southern Springs, a small congregation in the middle of Texas, no one challenged that individual as he walked into that house of worship, okay? I don't think anyone here is celebrating guns, not at this table, I don't think. I think we're talking about prudent actions that try to provide protection for our people. And I think all of us would also agree that the greater answer to this whole problem is not guns or security. It's at the heart of our faith, Christian faith, is the transformation of the inner person, okay? So that there is not anger and bitterness and that kind of attitude in life, but one of renewal and transformation, spiritual health and vitality that brings goodness and beauty out of people.
All right, we have to take a quick break, and we'll be back for final thoughts in a moment.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. The IRS is cracking down on those who owe back taxes. They send out devastating letters, garnish paychecks, and even put liens on your home or business. You may have heard of it. It's called enforced compliance. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists who will negotiate with the IRS on your behalf. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms and can negotiate a tax settlement with the IRS. It's that simple. And if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars, finally ending your financial stress. Now is the time for a fresh start. Now is the time to call Tax 10,000. 800-699-3188. That's 800-699-3188. Call now.
This is an important message for anyone with Medicare. You may be eligible for an all-in-one Medicare plan that combines hospital, medical, and prescription drug coverage together with extra benefits that may include dental, vision, hearing aids, and much more. Some of these plans have a $0 monthly premium regardless of your income. That's right. For one low plan premium, or in some cases a $0 premium, you may be able to get coverage for your hospital visits, doctor appointments, prescription drugs, routine dental care, eyeglasses and contact lenses, hearing aids, and possibly more. Today may be the first time you've heard about this type of Medicare plan. The advisors at the Medicare.com helpline are licensed insurance agents who will explain more when you call. Call now to see if you qualify. Call the number on your screen now. Call now to see if you qualify for these benefits. You worked hard for your Medicare. Now is the time for your Medicare to work hard for you. Not affiliated with or acting on behalf of any government agency or program.
Check out My Suncoast Dining on mysuncoast.com, your guide to the foodie lifestyle. ABC7's own Chef Judy serves up her favorite recipes, cooking tips and trends, dining blogs, step-by-step videos, and Suncoast Restaurant Guide. You'll find it all at mysuncoast.com/dining.
And our guests join us right now for final thoughts. It's a complicated subject. There are a lot of differences of opinions. But Reverend Meyer, what do you want people to take away from this conversation tonight?
Well, first, everyone does need to do whatever they feel is necessary for their safety within limits of remembering that everyone is their neighbor. And more importantly, we need to come together and reduce the rhetoric of hate, have a better understanding of our neighbor, and know that in the future, as we move forward, our neighbors are going to look different from us, and we have to learn about them and learn how to love them.
All right. Pastor Held?
I would just simply say we need to be each other's brother's keeper. We need to care for each other, love better, forgive better, and support each other better.
Howard?
Language matters, and be smart and be safe.
Okay. Protect yourself as best as you can.
You guys are doing so well here. We're going to have extra time, but Hassan, you know, we live in dangerous times. We saw it today in terms of the tweets that the president put out, retweeting some controversial videos from the UK. That makes your job a lot tougher in terms of making sure that Muslims in our area feel safe when they're going to pray.
Unfortunately, the president is making our job tougher, and every time he makes a remark that paints the Muslim community in a negative light, we see an increase in death threats, we see an increase in arson, we see an increase in hate crimes. But the solution is to get to know each other. I just had a beautiful experience. My friend just said that, you know, you're the first Muslim I met. And, you know, I had some fear maybe of Muslims before I met you. It takes getting to know each other and then cooperating to work together to see how we can serve this country together, united, we come off stronger.
Hear, hear. Thank you, gentlemen. FYI, you can watch past discussions on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. And a reminder, you can get all the latest local and national news on our smartphone app. But if you are using an Apple iOS and have the old version of our app, you'll go away at the end of the month. So iPhone users, you can find the new app by searching My Suncoast in the App Store. The app will update automatically for Android users. And we also want to thank all our guests for being here tonight. Pastor Bill Hild of Sarasota's First Baptist Church, Howard Teplowitz, the Executive Director of the Jewish Federation of Sarasota Manatee, Joe Naples of the Divine Protection Ministries, Hassan Shibli of the Council of American Islamic Relations, and joining us by Skype is Reverend Russell Meyer, the Executive Director of the Florida Council of Churches. When we return, we'll have a final look at your first alert weather, plus what did President Trump retweet today that has people outraged? Stay with us.
I'm calling in regards about my mother, and I'm here, and I just want to thank you because it saved my mother's life yesterday. And I'd like to know the names of the people that came in and saved her so I could call and thank them. And she's doing fine. It's a wonderful thing. Thank you.
When you fall and cannot get up, an accident can turn into a tragedy. But with Life Alert, one touch of a button can get you help fast. Life Alert saves a person from a catastrophe every 10 minutes.
Life Alert is a lifesaver. If it weren't for Life Alert, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
For a free Life Alert brochure, call 1-800-652-3012. That's 1-800-652-3012. Call now, 1-800-652-3012. For a free brochure, call 1-800-652-3012.
America, drug addiction is plaguing our great country. Every minute of every day, one of our citizens is rushed to the emergency room with a drug overdose. Many will never leave, never see the dawn of a new tomorrow in our great nation. Call Make America Sober Again now, before this disease destroys your family, your friends, your country. If you or someone you know is struggling with a drug or alcohol addiction, make the next minute in your life count. Make America Sober Again is committed to connecting you with someone compassionate and caring to help you right now. Call now and be connected to a treatment center in our network. Call Make America Sober Again now.
Call 800-793-6592. That's 800-793-6592.
Now your ABC7 First Alert weather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan.
Well, beautiful day today out on the waters. It was perfect. The sea's running less than 2 feet out there. Lots of sunshine and light winds for the most part, and a beautiful sunset this evening. We are looking at generally fair conditions up and down the coast right now. Some photos sent in. This was of the sunset on Siesta. Wendy Harris getting that. Appreciate that photo. High pressure, the big story all week long so far. This big area of high pressure continues to bring us this easterly flow, but also warm temperatures. Whenever you get an east wind, you get some warm weather, and we were near record highs today. 84 degrees, the high temperature at the Sarasota-Bradenton Airport. A few showers approaching with a cold front over Missouri and Arkansas. That front will not make it all the way through here. We're getting this easterly to northeasterly wind flow, bringing some rainfall all the way down into Naples and also into the Keys along the southeast coast. Not a lot of rain, just a few brief showers there on the tail end of that high-pressure ridge. But for us, we're high and dry. We could use a little bit of rainfall. It's been an unusually dry month of November with only 1/4 of an inch reported at the Sarasota-Bradenton Airport. The evening planner looks beautiful, clear skies, and 69 by 11 o'clock tonight. No worries there. A little bit of fog may form in patchy areas across parts of the interior viewing area. 77 degrees current temperature. Dew point is at 62, and winds are out of the east-northeast at 7. The pressure is still high, 30.09 inches. And speaking of high, the high today was 84 degrees, 2 degrees shy of the record 86, and that was set back in 1990. This morning's low was riding 10 degrees warmer than average. 57 is our typical low for this time of year. The record low 38 set back in 1922, and I mentioned the rainfall, only 1/4 of an inch so far for the month of November. Typically we get about 1.5 inches or so. And as far as temperatures go, into the mid-70s up and down the coast from Rosedale to Waterleaf to Parrish. 76 degrees, Laurel Oak at 77, Osprey at 76, and same in Northport, Port Charlotte, and 1 degree cooler now in Rotunda. So a pretty mild evening and it looks as though we'll see similar conditions again played out tomorrow, maybe a degree or two cooler than it was today. But as far as the futurecast goes, we aren't anticipating any rainfall here. This system, although not organized, continues to head off basically to the east. There's some rotation there. It's a broad area of low pressure. See it kind of spinning there. It bears watching. Interesting to see that moving off to the east right now. Not much going on in the Gulf of Mexico. Here comes that front moving through central portions of Georgia by Thursday evening, eventually slipping down into North Florida and weakening, and then eventually fading away as high pressure will build back in across the area. Lows tonight and tomorrow morning to start the day off will be around 64 degrees for Sarasota, and then we'll quickly warm up to 68 by 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, nationally, what's going on? Not a lot over the southeast with that large area of high pressure in control. A little bit of a clipper system moving through northern portions of the northern plain states and into Minnesota right now. As far as temperatures go, 30s and 40s over the Great Lakes, 46 in Boston, 75 in Phoenix, and 63 in Dallas. For boaters, winds will be out of the north, basically north-northeast, and right around 10 knots. Seas will be running 2 feet and a moderate chop to light chop on the bays and inland waters. The water temperature 71 degrees and the UV index will be a 5. And we'll see plenty of sunshine tomorrow. Tides upcoming on your screen, 8:55 for the next high tide, and sunrise will be at 7:02. Mostly fair. Some patchy fog, 65 for your low. And tomorrow, lots of sunshine. After a few clouds in the morning, that fog burns off. 82 your expected high. And the extended forecast calls for delightful weather the remainder of the work week and into the weekend, all the way to Tuesday. Another cold front is on the way Wednesday, bringing with it a chance for showers. And this next front will be a little stronger, so it'll cool things off late next week. We'll be right back after this.
Christmas Traditions by Lux Art Silks, where more is merrier. Make your holidays sparkle with style. Browse our amazing showroom, cute collectible cottages, and beautiful Christmas displays. Find the inspiration, selection, and quality you need to deck the halls merry and bright. Christmas Traditions also features the area's largest selection of quality pre-lit Christmas trees, every size, shape, and color, and plenty of decorations to make your home shine for the holidays. Christmas Traditions by Lux Art Silks, where more is merrier. Visit us on New 301, just a quarter-mile north of University Parkway.
Credit card debt can ruin your life. If you owe $10,000 and minimum payments are siphoning away your paycheck each month, you can get debt-free in less time than you think.
I've paid $800 a month for the past 3 years and haven't changed the balance on my credit card.
Get debt-free now has a program to reduce your debt, stop the harassing phone calls, avoid financial ruin, and settle for less than you owe.
I feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders.
You're pre-approved for our special hardship program if you owe $10,000 or more. Upon payment of your new lower balance, your debt will finally shrink until you are debt-free.
My family no longer has 30 years of payments ahead of us at 20% interest.
There's no fees until you see results. So call now, make one monthly program payment, and free up your cash. Resolve your debt.
Call 800-628-1251, 800-628-1251.
It's time to take a road trip.
Huntsville is a must-see destination. Is this your stop?
Roger.
Marvel at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. Wow. Step into the past at Alabama Constitution Village. All aboard! The golf is stellar, and even the food is out of this world in the Rocket City. Alabama has a road trip with your name on it.
Which one you gonna take?
Soldiers in the Army National Guard live up to a set of time-honored principles.
I will always place the mission first.
They stand ready to respond to any crisis.
I will never accept defeat.
They serve in their communities as citizens and as soldiers.
I will never quit.
They train part-time to be ready to serve at all times.
I will never leave a fallen comrade.
Learn more at NationalGuard.com.
Primetime headlines. President Trump has a huge tax bill he is trying to get passed, but instead, well, he's tweeting. ABC's Karen Travers has more.
The White House is forcefully defending President Trump retweeting videos from a fringe British nationalist, allegedly showing Muslims engaging in violence. Critics say the president's tweets were offensive. A key U.S. ally says it was wrong, but the White House says the president was focusing on national security. No comment from President Trump, who walked across the South Lawn to Marine One, ignoring questions from reporters. Earlier today, President Trump retweeting 3 videos that have been called inflammatory and Islamophobic. One of the videos purports to show a Muslim migrant beats up Dutch boy on crutches. But according to the Dutch government, the boy is neither Muslim nor an immigrant. The story completely false. Details the president didn't apparently check before he decided to retweet it to his 43 million followers. The woman who first tweeted the videos, Jada Franson, is the deputy leader of Britain First, a far-right extremist group. She said this year she wants Islam banned in the UK. But the White House not backing down. Press Secretary Sarah Sanders telling reporters the president isn't pushing anti-Muslim propaganda or offering an endorsement of this fringe group, but instead making a case for national security.
I'm not talking about the nature of the video. I think you're focusing on the wrong thing. The threat is real, and that's what the president is talking about, is the need for national security.
The White House spokeswoman pushing back on questions about whether the president should verify information or videos before he tweets them to 43.6 million followers.
Whether it's a real video, the threat is real.
But these retweets may cause a rift with a key U.S. ally, a rare pushback from the British Prime Minister's office, which said in a statement, quote, "It is wrong for the president to have done this." Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
One of the most recognizable faces on television has been fired after allegations of inappropriate sexual behavior. NBC News fired Matt Lauer this morning. The network announcing Lauer was let go after a colleague came forward with a detailed complaint Monday. NBC says it was the first complaint against Lauer, but added they were presented with reason to believe this may have not been an isolated incident. Lauer's Today Show colleague Savannah Guthrie made the announcement, calling it a sad morning. Lauer was part of NBC News for over 20 years. Longtime public radio host Garrison Keillor is also out of a job because of claims of inappropriate conduct. Minnesota Public Radio announcing it's terminating contracts with Keillor and his private media companies because of, quote, allegations of his inappropriate behavior with an individual who worked with him. NPR did not elaborate, but it did say it learned about the complaint last month. The 75-year-old created the popular show A Prairie Home Companion in 1974 and hosted it for decades until his retirement last year. And that's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Alan Cohn. Thanks for joining us. Good night.